Hey there, folks. What's going on? It's Codiak and Livid here, coming back at you in stereo. And today we are back with another Crucible character video. And today we're checking out the big guy, the chain gun toting big man on campus, Earl.
Just Earl, right?
Just Earl.
Perfect. So we got a hands-on preview, able to go through all the different characters and just check them out. And Earl is the one that we're going to be talking about today. But the best way to introduce you to Earl is just by watching a little video on him.
Roll that trailer. Oh, yeah. Hello.
Every operation has got an Earl. You know, family guy, just in it for a living, happy to pal around when he's off the clock.
Coming through.
But you know, when the chips are down, he is a real son of a gun. Speaking of guns, he calls his Misty after his wife. Old Misty here is a scratch-built quad cannon, spits out hundreds of rounds a minute. I also hear the real Misty is lovely. Anyway, the gun is kitted out. He can upshift her to let out a high-powered burst of bullets. Vent out an explosion to knock enemies back and to deflect
A lot of
projectiles.
mobility on him.
Or engage the afterburner to jet forward at frankly alarming speeds. If he gets in a tight spot, he can always chug a healing beverage. Solid guy to have on your side, but I wouldn't want to get in his way.
All right. So that's Earl. I mean, he brings a lot to the table. We've both had the chance to play with him. So what are your initial thoughts on him? And give people just the overall sense of how this character plays in the game.
So I was a little surprised by him. I didn't think he'd be as mobile as he actually is for his size and the amount of firepower that he can output. But he is quite a beefy boy that can fly across like a shooting star.
And it all comes down to his moveset. And you would think that he's got a really basic moveset, but it's actually really fun to play with, and it's quite modular.
Yeah, I mean, so he starts out with his basic quad cannon, right? And it just has a lot of bullets. Like for the herds of enemies that you can fight in PvE, you can literally just keep firing and mow down whole herds of these things with them. So he's a really good farmer. He's not as fast of a farmer as some other characters like Summer, but he can farm just like the rest of them, which is great. And he has the ability to, with that, it's got a jet engine slapped onto the bottom of him, right? So just hitting your shift key, if you're on PC, it flies through and it just rockets you across the map for a surprisingly long duration.
Yeah, it's like 5-6 seconds. It's crazy.
Yeah, like most characters that have something like that are just, it's like a short dash, right? This guy, like, you can cover some serious distance with this thing. Which is great because it allows him to like really position himself differently in the fight, or just get into a fight really quick if he's far away, which is pretty cool. And then he's got like a little beverage that he can drink to immediately restore a little bit of his health. It's not a huge amount, but it's kind of like a little tank ability. It comes off cooldown relatively quickly. And then he's got this thing called blowback vents, where he kind of lifts himself up into the air with a jet engine, and it blocks projectiles that come near him in the immediate area, but it also knocks back any enemies around him. So if like a Drakal or something get close to him and on him, it can just kick them away. And then the final thing he can do with that is he can upshift by you right click, and it fires a whole bunch of explosive rounds in an immediate succession and just nails a dude with a bunch of damage, which is pretty cool. So you can like spray guys down as they get close, just land them with some damage and then keep shooting. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the character is all about damage output, and it's not quick burst damage, it's just sustained damage. Yes, he has his right click ability, that upshift ability that does give you a little bit of burst, but overall, he's just about pure damage output and consistent damage output. And if you look at his stat chart, I mean, he's really got three things going for him. He's got a big health pool, he's got high damage, and he can really just mow down people from range. And that's really where he excels. He doesn't have a lot of control. I don't think the chart gives him enough credit for mobility. I actually think he's got a decent amount of mobility. That shift, you cannot sleep on that shift ability.
I feel like he's got more mobility than health, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, he brings so much to the table as a beefy guy on the battlefield. But it's, with all of the other characters in the mix, my question for you is, where does he fit in on a team comp? In a PvEVP type game, where does he fit in?
Generally, you want to have at least one character on your team that's dedicated as like a farmer. And that's like the PvE creatures that as you're going through, they can just lay into them and gather the essence from those creatures. While the other characters that are more mobile can kind of get to objectives early on and capture them, get the harvesters going, stuff like that, right? But you want somebody at least that can just sit there and farm a bunch of essence really quickly for the team before all the other stuff comes online that provides more essence. So he fills a really good role as like a farmer, and then kind of like a I wouldn't say he's like a frontliner because like he does have a decent health pool, but he doesn't burst down enemies quick enough to be able to do so. So he's more kind of just kind of sitting mid range and just peppers enemies with damage, right? Just to keep them from healing, keep them from really dipping out of the fight. That's kind of like I'd say his main role within a team if you're going to pick him.
Right, and one of his wild cards is his E ability, which is the blowback vents. It's a really strange ability that knocks back enemies and blocks projectiles in the immediate area around him. It's a really strange ability. I have not figured out the right way to use that move yet, but it is a really interesting kind of twist to his move set.
Yeah, it feels like the knockback is a really close. Like they have to be on top of you for them to really get knocked back. Because I've used it before and they were just outside of my range and it just didn't do anything to them. So I think it's more of like a damage absorbing shield.
Right, and it's a great way to get a Drakal out of the mix or a Summer out of the mix, and it's also a decent way if you're getting peppered by, a Mendoza. It's a good way you can use that, block projectiles in the immediate area. It's basically if somebody creeps up on you, you can use blowback vent to give yourself a little bit of a cushion to get away.
Yeah, I'd say that's right.
All right, so we talked about the PvEVP aspect of this game. Earl fits into that kind of sustained damage in the PvP aspect. He definitely fits into the farming aspect of the game, but there are the essence upgrades which can completely change the way that this character plays. And for anybody that doesn't know, the essence upgrades, you have to make these selections before you enter a match. You have 5 different tiers of these selections, and each one can really change the way a character plays. So, Livid, take us through level 1 of the Earl essence upgrades.
All right. So level one, as with all characters, has usually 3 upgrades. And you choose between these, right? So the first choice is Big Rig. It increases your max health by 300. So if you're specking into like a more tanky kind of build to just absorb a lot of stuff, that would be the choice that you want to go with, right? Your second choice here is High Idle, and Turbo Fire does not deplete below 25%. So what that means is when your quad gun is spinning up, essentially, it has a wind up time. And what this means is when it gets down around 25% before it's no longer wound up, it doesn't go below that. So it's already partially wound up and it allows you to get your damage out quicker, essentially. So just less delay on that kind of stuff. And then the third upgrade is Packing a Spare. It increases your maximum ammo by 30, 10 per piston. Um, so it just gives you overall more ammo into each one of the pistons. As you fire it, you'll see that there's kind of slots where it shows your ammo depleting from the 3 different pistons. So it just gives you more ammo overall, which is always a good thing.
Right, and he does already have, it seems like an endless amount of ammo compared to some of the other characters in the game.
Oh yeah, the amount of sustained DPS is actually insane on him.
Right. It's definitely sustain Earl. That's really what the name of his game is all about, is just staying on the battlefield and pumping consistent damage downfield to the enemies. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
All right, I will take you through level 2 here. Nothing wasted. Increases the amount healed by medkits by 50%. So you can have up to 3 medkits on any of the standard characters other than Tosca, who can upgrade to have up to 6. But those medkits really come in handy. You get into a scrap, you go hide, you pop a medkit. It takes 3 or 4 seconds to channel it, and then you get health back. Now, getting 50% more from those medkits as a big guy with a big health pool, I mean, it's so important. Obviously, it's the only essence upgrade you can take at level 2 here, but that's just going to make sure that you can top off even easier.
Yeah, that's why it's pretty much essential on him. It just confirms the little bit of tank viability that he's got in his kit.
Absolutely. All right, Livid, take us through level 3.
So at level 3, as usual, there's 3 upgrades that you can choose from here. The first being Directional Vents. It doubles the movement speed when using blowback vents and increases the duration of it from 2.5 to 3 seconds. So I'm not sure if that 0.5 seconds is really going to matter all too much in terms of the time to kill in this game, because you are receiving a decent amount of damage, but a half a second, you're not really going to receive that many more shots in that amount of time. So I don't know if that portion of it is worth it, but the movement speed is definitely worth it because when you're flying with the thing, it goes really slow normally. So just being able to get a little bit more distance, it allows you to even like jump gaps that you normally can't jump. So you jump off, you blow back vent, you kind of hover above that area and get to another ledge, which is kind of good.
Really expands his mobility for sure.
Yes. The second option is Scatterblast Shot. Upshift AoE increases by 50% and inflicts 50% more damage as a dot. which is interesting. So it gives his upshift just a little bit more utility, sustain damage over time. It's just all about the sustain, right? So he's chipping damage even when he's not hitting you if he manages to land that shot. And then his third option here is X Turbo Draft. Tanking up fully charges Turbo Fire. So that's kind of cool. So if you pop one of your little sodas that he's got or his energy drinks or whatever they are, not only do you get a little bit of health, it then makes your Turbo Fire immediately spin up, which is really good.
So if you disengage out of a fight and you're have a little bit of health missing, and you need to get back into a fight, you can pop your tanking up. Your gun automatically fires up and is ready to go full tilt, and you're also healing up.
Very good.
So three really interesting options there at level 3. All right, level 4 here, we've only got one ability. It's Full Throttle. Afterburners knocks opponents back and stuns them. This just adds to that left shift ability, that mobility that we've talked about, gives it even more utility. If you're in a scrape and you need to get out of a scrape, you can just pop on Afterburners. You're going to knock people back. You're going to stun them. You could also use it as an offensive move if you really wanted to. Earl is not great when diving right into the fray, but you can do it if you need to.
Yeah, if you need to save like a teammate that's really getting hard chased, he can catch up to him relatively quickly compared to other classes. And if it's just a little bit amount, you can knock the enemy that's hard pursuing one of your teammates and stun him and gives them that chance to get away.
Right. And it's hard to ignore an Earl when they're in the fray. Like if you see an Earl that's like dives into a situation, it's hard not to turn and target him. He's a big target. He's a loud target. And that's a really great way to save a teammate potentially.
Yep.
All right, Livid, take us through level 5.
So level 5 and the last 2 upgrades you could possibly choose from. The first would be Star Ball Energy Drink. Tanking up heals plus 50% and purges all negative conditions. So the cool thing about that is all dots that you receive, any like debuffs that characters place on you, stuff like that, will all be completely purged, and you'll heal an extra 50%, which is really good. It makes your heal a lot more substantial because it only does it just a little bit initially, but that is like I want to say it's almost like half a med kit worth, maybe. I would say it's roughly close to that.
I would say
which
so.
Which is pretty substantial. And then the second possible upgrade is Redline that sucker. At maximum turbo fire, it increases your rate of fire by 25% and your projectile speed by 33%. And opponents do not block line of fire at maximum turbo fire. So it's pretty crazy in that your bullets get to your enemies faster, you shoot out bullets faster, and you just overall can engage enemies even when they're all stacked up with each other.
I mean, we have 2 really distinct options here. One that is incredibly about sustainability on a battlefield, survivability, healing up, being that tanky character on the map, or going full tilt DPS. So very different choices here and drastically going to change the way that you should approach playing Earl.
Yeah, 100% on that one.
All right, so we both had the chance to play him. What are your final thoughts on Earl? What do people need to know about this character?
Your positioning is really key with him, I think, because he's not the kind of, tank that wants to jump in and fight. So your positioning is all about kind of assessing the situation and where you can deal the most amount of sustained damage without being engaged, and then making sure you always have a route to get out, to use that afterburner to slip away and maybe get to a position to keep on engaging. So you never want to like trap yourself as a character in a corridor or something like that. You always kind of want to have high ground or options to just disengage. So that's the kind of character play style. Like he's good at soaking up some damage to save a teammate, but he's not good to soak up damage, and that's his only job, So that would be how I would approach the character. Is you just always got to have your situational awareness about this.
Right. And he's definitely one of the more accessible characters that I've found as somebody that struggles with these types of games. Earl is one of the characters that I got in, I learned the moveset relatively quickly, and I had fun with him right off the bat. He doesn't have a lot of skill shots. You do need to have some sort of, knowledge about aiming and some sort of skill there. But in terms of compared to, say, a Jonah or, even Mendoza, your aiming can be a little bit rustier because he's got a bigger area to work with, kind of.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, guys, so if you want more Crucible videos in your feed, don't forget to like and subscribe to Legion Gaming. We just opened up our Crucible section of our Discord, so if you want to join over 3,000 people, talk about Crucible, play some games, don't forget to click that link below. And as always, guys, my name is Codiak. That's been Livid. Thanks for watching, and play on.
Thanks, guys.